Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at two light Euro games, the first of which is Alpujarras and the second is Finca. Now the only kind of linking thing between these two games is they are both about harvesting fruit, so I thought I'd compile them together. Now before I get started on my reviews of these two games, I want to give a shout out to the show sponsor KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. Okay, so let's start with Alpujarras by Steve Finn and Dr. Finn's games. This one accommodates 1 to 4 players, and the box says 30 minutes per player. From my experience, it's a little bit quicker than that, especially if you are reasonably experienced with Euro-style board games. Now, the main mechanism of this game is actually the time track system, also known as the ratchet system, where you can jump from action to action by going as far as you like, but you do not get another turn until all the other players have surpassed you in that order. A mechanism I generally like. I can't think of many games that I don't like that mechanism in, and I especially like it when that carrot is really dangled in front of you, and you do have that incentive to push on. You know, I think about games such as Glenmore 2 Chronicles. It's absolutely sublimely executed. A lot of other games such as, you know, Francis Drake, stuff like this, they've used it well, but I always think that there could always be that extra incentive to jump further. Now, I actually think that Alpujarras did a reasonably good job of, again, making you feel like it's a tough decision to, you know, do you want to just dawdle along and get as many bonuses as you can or actions as you can, or do you really want to jump to the next action that you really need to pull off your master plan. Now, the general objective of this game is that you're going to be spawning workers onto the board or moving workers, collecting fruit, and when you get to certain market spots on this time track, then you can cash in that fruit for these kind of public tiles here, getting you points as a reward. There's also a dynamic supply and demand market, where basically the fruits that have been neglected the longest will get a few more coins as a reward, but of course as soon as that contract is cashed in, then it'll go back to the back of the queue, meaning that it no longer has those bonus points. And there's also some surplus contracts that you can choose to cash in for a few points through the kind of odds and ends of the fruit that you've collected. There's a small amount of area control in the game, so when it comes to these harvest phases, the different regions on the board will be calculated depending on who's got, or if you have the majority in any of the regions, you'll get a bit of extra fruit kind of to the core fruit assigned to that particular region. There's some additional things such as additional currencies such as these Noria tokens that you can collect and cash in as you see fit to get extra bonuses to convert fruit to other fruit, and things like that, as well as public objectives which you can try and race towards. The sooner you complete them, the more points you will get. So again, another sense of urgency to get to certain spots on the board to cash in those contracts before your opponents do. That's pretty much the gist of the strategy. There's some additional things as well, such as using these irrigation tiles to fill up the board and create new spawning points for the fruits. But it's pretty simple stuff. You know, collect fruit, cash them in for contracts, and get points, and dabbling in that little bit of area control. But again, the time track works well. It's a well put together game. You can definitely see this has been well thought of, and it's designed by someone who knows what they're doing. There's a few additional touches that I quite appreciated, such as when you visit the locations where you can cash in or aim for those public contracts. If you can't actually complete them right now, you can pick up one of the tokens instead, which means the next time you go to there, you can complete 2 contracts, or even 3 if you collected more than one of those tokens at once. Again, just that little touch goes to show that these little things have been thought of. Now, I think the game, again, it's a well put together game. My only kind of apprehension is that I'm not sure if it's going to stand up to multiple plays, because it is going to feel pretty samey each time. Additionally, I feel like this game somewhat lacks its own identity. You know, it's just a mishmash of generic Euro mechanisms. Although they're done well, I can't quite put my finger on saying, oh, Alpujarras is the game that does this. This is why it deserves its place amongst the greats. For me, this is like another decent Euro game. You're looking at around a 6 out of 10. Well put together. You're going to get a couple of nice plays out of it. You can definitely introduce this to more entry-level Euro gamers and have a good time with it. And again, it's just a nice harmonized game with no glaring issues, except for maybe it doesn't have the legs to stand up to hitting the table regularly and consistently. But if you back this one on Kickstarter, I'm sure you'll get a few good plays out of it, especially if you do prefer your Euro games on the lighter end of the spectrum. So let's move on to Finca. This is a 2 to 4 player game. You're looking at around 45 minutes for this one. Another medium, light, even venturing on lightweight Euro. So what you're trying to do here is that you are collecting these fruit tokens by traversing this rondel on the board. So you're going to have a bunch of your pawns scattered on this rondel, or these different blades of the rondel. And then depending on how many people are on that particular section of the rondel, you're going to move your piece that many places. And depending on where you land, it goes to show how many pieces of that fruit that you'll pick up. So there's a bit of spatial awareness here and kind of orienteering around the map to take that optimal move. You're collecting fruits, hopefully collecting these donkey tokens as you meet certain checkpoints or cross certain checkpoints on the rondel, again cashing those fruits in to complete these contracts on the map. Like all the different contracts have certain requirements of fruits that they need, and you'll get that many points in return. You're also incentivized to collect different types of fruit for some bonus points. And as these contracts are depleted, there will be a final tile which will show who has, or these extra tile, which will show who's got the most of that particular fruit on their already completed contracts will get these bonus points. So sometimes you need to pace yourself quite carefully and make sure that you're not depleting a stack, because that could completely fall on the lap of your opponent and they can end up capitalizing on your moves, which is obviously not a good thing. You have a few bonus things as well, such as these extra tokens, which will give you little game-breaking rules, such as letting you go anywhere on the rondel, or letting you cash in more each time you do in a contract, or using a token as a to proxy one of the fruit that you would need to complete a contract. And if you don't use those bonuses, you'll get some extra points. The thing I really like about this game, which is actually quite a nasty mechanism, is the fact that there's only a limited amount of each fruit in the pool that all players can take from. And as soon as somebody harvests fruit and that pool runs out, as if, say I needed 4 oranges and there's only 3 in the supply, I would take my 3 oranges, and then everybody else who has oranges would have to return theirs back to the pool. So you're going to have to be quite careful about stockpiling those fruit, or definitely be at the risk of losing them all and wasting all that effort. The game is going to end depending on the player count in relation to how many of the different stacks of tiles have been depleted. And that's pretty much it. You're going to get points for the contracts you've completed, the diversity and bonuses here by how many different sets of individual numbers you've got, and those bonus points from the unused bonus tiles. Very accessible, very punchy, simple, quick decisions. That rondel state is very dynamic, always changing, and the optimal decisions shifting here and there. And this is the kind of contract fulfillment game that I enjoy. And generally speaking, kind of medium, even to heavyweight Euros that have contract fulfillment, I find them a little bit tedious and a little bit bland, because it just seems like you know what you're aiming for, you're going to aim for that, and so on. It kind of paints itself into a corner. Whereas in this one, because of that risk of stockpiling resources is such a gamble, it just makes it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more excitement, and adds that little bit of element of player interaction into the game, with an edge of nastiness. So if you watch my content regularly, you might have noticed that I have praised this game over the time I've had it. It's definitely nestled in well to my collection. I always look forward to playing this one, and it's just a joy to play, really. So this one definitely gets a commendation for me. I think it might be somewhat difficult to get hold of now, So, be vigilant if you want to snap a copy up. If you do regularly, introduce people to Euro games, or you want a more of a gateway level game, this one could be up there with the great ones. I'm not quite sure why this one didn't take off to the magnitude of your Carcassonnes, of your Quaxoquedlinburgs. For me, this one could be up there because it ticks so many boxes and has a familiar sense of gameplay with those few extra touches that make it a little bit spicy. So definitely recommend Finca. Give this one a look. So that concludes the video and my reviews of Alpujarras and Finca. Hopefully you have enjoyed it, and if you weren't aware of these games, now you are, and you can do a bit of research to see if these games are for you. Now, if you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other content too. And for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye bye.